Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a exclusive session on signature experiences of Australia. We hope you all are doing well. On behalf of my team at Tourism Australia, I'd like to thank you all for being a part of this session and registering for these series. Just a few things before we start and invite our guest presenters today. Right below your screen, you will see a Q&A tab where you can queue in all your questions for the presenters, and we'll take all those questions in a while. The question answer session will be conducted by my colleague Samar, who you all know very well. And he'll take these questions at the end of each presenter's session. Also, a few things to let you know that this webinar is being recorded. So we will share the link of this webinar at the end of the session. In case if you have any specific questions that we've not been able to answer right now, please be assured we'll take them offline for sure. Just a few seconds before we take off completely. And here's inviting the man who needs no introduction, our country manager, Nishant Kashikar. Over to you, Nishant. Thank you.
Hey, Ritu. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, and good to see you all and some familiar faces on this webinar today. Hope everyone's well. Hope everyone's taking good care of themselves and their family members and their colleagues, and I wish that we all recover the soonest. Most importantly, thank you very much for joining this, the first series of our Signature Experience of Australia webinars that we're commencing this week. And this week is all is dedicated towards promoting this wonderful, unique, bespoke experiences that Australia has to offer. Now, if there's one thing that's close to our heart and something that we really cherish, that's a relationship with the trade and the industry at both ends. And over the past 4 months, ever since we have gone into this lockdown phase, we've been interacting with a lot with the industry at both ends. My team, that's Ritu, Diksha, and Samar, they've delivered almost over 12,000 webinars involving 8 state and territory tourism organizations of Australia and engaging with almost over 110 products and attractions from Australia. So there's been a lot of engagement happening between the two countries and between the two industries. And that's primarily to increase the knowledge and the skill set of all our agents, of all our partners, involving the, including the Aussie specialists, the premier Aussie specialist agents, and to maintain Australia's top of mind recall. So once the borders open, everyone's equipped with all the itineraries and the knowledge and the skill set to promote Australia as the next holiday destination. So what's next? We love raising the bar, and we thought, why not raise the profile in terms of the quality of audience, quality of agents. So we have all the Traveller Made and Premier agents and the Premier Aussie Specialist agents. We also have the ITOs in this room and the state partners as well, but also in terms of the product and the quality of experiences that Australia has to offer. So there's nothing like promoting the signature experiences of Australia. And between today and Friday, we're going to have executives from the 6 collectives of Signature Experience of Australia coming to you live from Australia, because we believe that once the borders open, these are the products that's going to resonate amongst the higher value travelers who will have the propensity to travel post-COVID. Now, if some of you all would remember, in Jan 2020, we formally launched the Signature Experience of Australia. And if you'd remember, there were 2 wonderful ladies who came to India, Penny Rafferty and her partner in crime, or I must say, her close associate, Karen Fitzgerald. And they traveled across 2 cities, had almost 4 days to themselves, and organized 6 events to promote all these 700 wonderful experiences that these collectives have to offer. And so we have today joining us live from the Barossa Valley, Penny Rafferty, who needs no introduction. She has been championing the Luxury Lodges of Australia franchisee for almost a decade. Yes, almost a decade. And I would like to wish her, on behalf of all of us who are present on this call and on behalf of the industry, a huge congratulations for completing a decade with Luxury Lodges of Australia. And she's done a phenomenal job in raising the profile of Australia's experiential luxury products all around the world. So without any further ado, let me hand over to my wonderful friend, colleague, Penny Rafferty, live from the Barossa Valley. Over to you, Penny.
Oh, Nishant, you always manage to get me very emotional. So thank you, and thank you for such a beautiful welcome. Goodness, I do remember sitting in Hong Kong airport on my way home from India that first week of February and thinking that the world is going to change, and boy, has it ever. So I really hope that all of you are sort of taking this time and finding some silver linings in what has been a very, very challenging time for everyone. And I will say that my partner in crime and I, Karen, had a phenomenal time in India, and we cannot wait to return the hospitality when we finally make it back there. So we will be back, and thank you again to those that we saw and for your incredible friendship and engagement. However, we've all been sort of cooped up for some time, so if you will just bear with me, I'm going to just play you our videos so that we can set the mood, set the scene, and have a little bit of escapism at the beginning of this presentation. Okay, as you all know, Australia is very large, and so we've started to use the phrase, which has actually always been part of our DNA, that we are naturally isolated. But I think many of you know, and there are some of you who I do know very well, and some of you that I'm not quite so familiar with. So forgive me if I'm repeating some things that some of you know well already, but we are definitely not just a one-trip destination. And if anything out of that video, all I really want you to get a sense of is the depth, diversity, and quality of not just location and landscape, but of experience as well. Because ultimately, that is what defines the luxury lodges of Australia. Many of you will know Southern Ocean Lodge and maybe be saying, why has she still got that in the video? They are still a member. The plans for rebuild are underway. I'm actually going over there to do some volunteer recovery work in a few weeks, so I'll hopefully have some photographs to share with you. But the lodge has been totally dismantled now, and it's like a runway strip. So James and Hayley are busy working on the new plans for the rebuild. 19 lodges, all in remote regions of Australia. They're not hotels. They are in beautiful landscapes that have something compelling to do in each of them. And as I mentioned, they are naturally isolated. So a quick recap for people who aren't quite as familiar with them. What defines our lodges? It is all about location, location, location. You know, there's a reason to come here. Absolutely all the soft luxuries that your clients would expect: eat well, drink well, sleep well, delivered at the highest levels. But it's what you do at the lodges that is uniquely Australian and the reason you go there. So they're much more than just a place to stay. They must proactively deliver an experience of place. Luxury does mean something different to everyone. And our luxury is absolutely linked to that exclusivity of access to environment, pristine environments, clean air, water, soil, the people of the place, those Aussie larrikin storytellers, and the experts, the produce, our incredible diversity of produce from the tropics to the Mediterranean climes, and the knowledge of all the things that make up Australia's fabric, the rich fabric of our travel experiences. Something that has been very close to my heart for a long time, and I guess a driving force for me, has been what is now being largely called rising sustainability. And I think this time in lockdown for many people, that observation of nature, the observation of our freedom, the observation of how precious nature is and our clean air, our clean water, and also particularly what we value in travel, has really risen to the fore. I remember I did about 37 virtual calls in March when I came back, and I haven't left the Barossa since the 13th of March. I think my passport is in the cupboard behind me, jumping up and down saying, let me out. But that value of what impact we have on travel and what we really value in travel, I think is something that on a mass scale people have been thinking about. And this is core to all of our business. So what I want to flag with you is that this has always been core to what is a luxury lodge of Australia. They've always had a legacy story at the core purpose of each of their businesses. Some of them very easy to articulate and identify, some of them a little more tricky, but that's where we're here to help you. So one of the key things we've done during this period is develop a lot of content that tells you the story of the positive impact that each of these lodges has on either their environment, the local culture, their local community. It's not just about conservation, although that is clearly a major part, but it is about the positive impact that your guests have when they come to Australia, to these lodges, but equally the positive impact that the lodges have on them and the experience that they deliver. So lots of stories to tell around that. Just expanding a little on some of those key assets, that exclusivity of access. Many of you know that most of the lodges are either in or adjacent to a World Heritage or a National Park area. Many of them, you share enormous tracts of land with only a handful of other guests. And I always use that term, privilege of place, and I think we've all been lucky enough to experience that. It's not just a place you see, but you actually really feel, you sense that privilege of access when you are standing on the far western coast of Australia at South Salis, or private access to Zebedee Thermal Springs when you're at El Questro Homestead. But the expert hosts and guides are the people that really bring it to life. They are our secret sauce. And it is that full package that a lodge offers that differentiates it from a resort or just a hotel. But some of those legacy stories, they really dig deep into our Indigenous culture through things like the arts relationship that the Baileys have with Ernabella Arts Collaboration in the Northern Territory, just outside of Uluru. This is a real opportunity for guests to get completely up close and personal and a real experience, not a contrived or zoo-like experience with our Aboriginal culture, oldest living culture in the world, and over 50,000 years of storytelling, and they're just the most beautiful people. There's also the conservation, and I'll talk a little bit more about Walgan Valley in a moment, but Sapphire are about to launch a massive program called Place and Planet, which is a really exciting legacy story that I will follow up and share with you as soon as it is launched. And Arkaba in the Flinders Ranges. It's a private wildlife conservancy that's now been going for 10 years, and they've now got colonies of yellow-footed rock wallabies. They've got animals that haven't been seen in the area for over 70 years, coming back to breed and nest and thrive in this extraordinary grand-scale landscape. But one of the lesser known areas of sustainability is that economic lifeblood through to regional communities that tourism is a really great contributor to. So you've got these communities like Dalesford, where Lake House was a restaurant with beautiful rooms. But over a period of 30 years, they've really nurtured and mentored dozens of small producers, and it's now a thriving regional economy. The same with the Louise in the Barossa Valley, oldest continuous food culture in Australia, but with the encouragement of people like Jim and Helen Carricker, who developed the Louise, there's been a new breed of cheesemakers, artisan bread makers, feeding on the old traditions, but giving it a really cool and contemporary twist, which is very exciting for guests to come and engage with. I don't have a massive amount of time to talk to you about all of the lodges, but given the impact of the bushfires, which were still burning when I was in India at the end of January, beginning of February, I did want to talk specifically about Emirates' one and only Walgan Valley. Southern Ocean Lodge was destroyed by the fires, but Walgan Valley itself was not damaged, although the land all around, because it's wedged between two national parks and World Heritage Zones, was very badly damaged. But what I wanted to show you is that, there is an incredible resilience, not just with nature, but with the people of Australia. And we had incredibly long time of drought, then fire, then floods, and now COVID. And so already it was pretty raw in Australia, and the burnt landscape was a constant reminder to us. But I just wanted to show you that these are photographs taken on the 11th of March, when I was lucky enough to visit Walgan Valley. They had clearly had rain. It was the greenest I have ever seen it. And in fact, it's the greenest that the lady there on the right, Simone Brooks, who's the head of conservation at Walgan Valley, the greenest she had ever seen it. And so we had a beautiful afternoon rebuilding habitats for the ground-dwelling animals and bird life, and planting trees. So I now have 3 trees at Walgan Valley, which I'm very proud of. And it was a very, very, very beautiful way to connect with a place and be part of the story of resilience and regeneration that is gathering momentum all across Australia. And now Walgan Valley is reopened. It is thriving. You have these incredibly beautiful winter mornings. The wombats are out, the kangaroos are back. And in fact, the wildlife is even more dense than before, because much of it came to the valley while the fires were happening, because it was a bit of a refuge. So much to do. And in terms of when borders do open, because Sydney will still be the major gateway, or a major gateway, Walgan Valley is only a 2.5 to 3 hour drive from Sydney. So I do think that it will be one of the naturally isolated, beautiful Australian outback, quintessential Australian bush story and easy access place and destination for your clients for one of those first trips back to Australia once we are free to travel again. So that one I wanted to highlight. Some of you have heard me talk about this. It's that halo effect. There are only 19 lodges. Between them, they have over 250 experiences. But we did something last year and we got them to all to add up the number of businesses that were recognizable to their guests that they partnered with. So if your clients come to stay at a lodge and they can see that this is a boutique distilled gin by Archie Rose, and the cheese is made by the King Island Dairy, or the art is made by Janine McIntosh. Or that's what I mean by visible to guests. And this is all part of that economic nutrition that a lodge can have on a region, because they partner between them with over 1,600 other tourism-based businesses. And it is absolutely part of the rich tapestry of what is Australian tourism, and particularly high-end Australian tourism, and particularly regional tourism experiences. but it's such an incredible way to actually get under the skin of a place and really understand it. A couple of the straight up and down things. When's the best time to go? You all know this. Australia is vast. It's big. There is something extraordinary to do at any time of the year. What we've done is keep building the filters on our website so that any time of the year or any particular kind of experience preference that you know your clients have, there's a filter system on our website now that sorts those 250 experiences by lodge, by time of year, and by style of experience. So our aim with the website is to make it really easy for you to find what you need to find in order to build amazing itineraries. There are 30 odd sample itineraries on the website. They are building blocks for you. You know your clients, we know the lodges. So these are building blocks for you to build the right kind of journey for your clients, whether it's a honeymoon or a romance-based one, whether it is about family-friendly visits, or whether it's a first-timer, we've got to see the reef and the rock and Sydney type experience. So there are so many tools and resources there to help you. When we talk about a honeymoon, hey, we mean anything to do with romance. We've all been locked up with our loved ones. So I am being a little bit cheeky in our next newsletter and saying, just same face, but different place. You know, there are times when we want to still spend time with our loved ones, even if we have been pretty much locked up with them for months on end. There's a great misconception about a luxury lodge. It's not a resort. It's not flop and drop with kiddies club and chicken nuggets and nannies and amas to look after the children. Many of the lodges are family friendly, but it's about the style of experience that the families engage with. And whether that is being a wildlife ranger for the day, whether it's making and flying your own kites down on the Fresnay Peninsula, whether it's discovering wildlife on safari-style experiences, there are many of the lodges are multi-generational and family-friendly destinations. And then I'm assuming that most of you know the icons of Australia, so I'll keep moving because I'm conscious we are very tight on time. I don't have time to talk to you about all 19 lodges in depth, but what we have done is set up a training video on Vimeo. Every time Tori or Libby or myself do a training session and we realize that it's better than the last one, we reload that. And there is always a training video with current new news, current new experiences for all of the lodges at this link, and we will share this with you later. Assets and resources, image and video library. I know many of you use that. Rich content, the experiences filters. There is also an accommodation summary, which gives you really the fine detail on what are the bedding configurations at every single one of the lodges. Can they do rollaways? Don't they do rollaways? Do they do children's cots? Are they split kings or not split kings? All of that detail is in one document for all 19 lodges, as are the child policies. Just remember that if a lodge doesn't accept children below a certain age, it's more to do with the appropriateness of the experience rather than anything to do with them not wanting children. It's largely a safety and an age-appropriate experience decision. There's also a single page on the website that will show you when the lodge is open or opening, and that is updated almost daily at the moment as the lodges do reopen. There is also a constant flow of new news. This page is updated almost daily, and as are our social media platforms, so you can always do that. But I just wanted to go back to what I talked about briefly at the beginning, was those things that we truly value now, having had many of our freedoms taken from us. And really, you know, the one meme that I really liked in this whole sort of thing, and I'm not much of a fan of memes, was the one that said, "World, we can't possibly stop everything to save the planet. Mother Nature, here's a virus, practice." And I do think that many of us have given a lot of thought to what we value family, freedom, travel, particularly for us in the business of tourism, understanding what it is that our clients and customers and guests are going to value when they come out of this. And I really believe that many of those things have always been at the core DNA of a luxury lodge of Australia. So let's stay connected. We have some constant flow of news and really beautiful happenings and events and experiences on our social media platforms. Tori, myself are both available anytime you have questions. You have relationships with your DMCs who can help you once we're able to start planning ahead, and we know that with certainty that travel can happen again. So thank you so much for all of your support, and take care. And I can't wait to come back to India.
Thank you very much, Penny, and hello everyone. Penny, I love that. I love watching that video, and every time I see it, I'm just so moved. I want to hop on the plane and just get there and experience it all for myself, so I can come back and talk to so many of our lovely friends and tell them what they've been missing and why they should get there. So thank you very much for that. There are a few questions that have come through, which I would like to take up with you. The first question was on the lodges and how they're catering for dietary requirements, especially in terms of vegetarian food.
Yep.
If you would like to address that one.
Absolutely. Food is an absolute point of pride for all of the lodges. Absolutely, they can cater for any dietary requirement, but you do need to communicate this. Some of the lodges operate in really, really remote areas, and so they will absolutely cater for dietary requirements. But if somebody turns up with a severe allergy or a fairly strict vegetarian or limited vegetarian requirement, they can't just suddenly get things in at the last minute. The more you can communicate, not just even about the dietaries, but about other preferences of your guests in advance, the more the team at the lodge can really make them feel welcome and comfortable and at home. And it's a big difference between being like home and at home. This will all still be delivered in a really amazing Australian landscape with our first name personal service. And yes, dietaries and any of those other preferences can be catered to very easily, but do give advance notice so that there isn't confusion or disappointment at the end.
And just on that, Penny, how much advance notice is required? Is it 24 hours, 48 hours, or as soon as possible?
When you're making the booking, okay. It's and generally places like Lizard Island or Capella Lodge, they only get a barge delivery every week. Vegetarian is easy, but if there are severe allergies or if somebody has something even more precise need, then definitely more than a week. But it should be part of the process when you are making the booking to make sure that any of those mobility or dietary or significant allergies or significant phobias or any of the quirks or needs of your clients, if they're communicated at the time of booking, they will be looked after to the absolute optimum.
Thank you. The other one was on what activities can families do at the lodges, especially those that are open to welcome kids of different age groups. Yeah.
Walgan Valley is a very easy one to talk about. They have structured and unstructured family and children activities. Children can go off with a guide and without the parents and actually be a ranger for the day. So they do some wildlife work. They build a habitat for some bird life. They can also, they're on each of the villas at Walgan Valley, there are mountain bikes. So families can go riding together. Obviously at somewhere like Mount Mulligan, which is the newest of the lodges in far northern outback Queensland, it's only 8 rooms, so 16 guests maximum. All the toys are there, so all-terrain vehicles, golf buggies, there are safari drives. It's fantastic actually, and it's one of those things that was an unexpected wow for me was the trip to the old gold mine and the coal mining town that are part of Mount Mulligan property. Fascinating insight to a really interesting part of Australia's history back in at the turn of in the early 1900s. Capella Lodge, Lord Howe Island, it's a paradise, southernmost coral reef, hiking, loads of different hiking trails from extremely hard up Mount Gower to much, much easier, to feeding the fish on Ned's Beach. Each of the lodges has so many activities, and the ones that are family friendly are highlighted on the website, and you'd be able to dig much deeper than that as well and match it up with what your clients want.
Great, thank you. I guess the last one was that I had was the opening dates for lodges, but I guess you covered that in one of the slides.
Yeah.
So maybe it would be good to just let our guests know how they could best utilize the website and all the resources therein to benefit themselves and their customers.
Well, I just see that the fabulous Loveleen has just paid a compliment to the website. It is like my second child. I hope it is really intuitive. It's, there's no sort of fixed formula. It's not a register and password protected. Everything there on the website is built around the fact that I've been asked questions by travel planners and travel advisors about really minute detail around the lodges. And so I hope it's quite intuitive to use, but if you have any questions at any time, just email me and I can point you in the right direction.
Great, thank you. And we've also received some requests for the videos, which we will be sending to everyone along with the presentation and links where you can download. Even the Vimeo link will be shared.
So on our Vimeo platform, we have the master video, but we also have 4 short vignette videos for each lodge. So there's over 100 videos on the Vimeo channel. It's also on YouTube, but Vimeo doesn't have ads and it's easier to download from. So you have both options. You can embed a YouTube link or you can download from Vimeo. And you can, they're short little ones that are great on social media, or you can embed them in itineraries, or you can actually embed them in your signature block, in your emails, or embed them in an email to a client. It's a really easy way to really evoke a sense of and answer those questions of why would I go there? What am I going to do there? And how's it going to make me feel? That was the brief I did to the production company. And that's why those videos are such an important part of our way of helping you tell the story of the lodges.
Super. Thank you so much, Penny.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy, John. Take care. And I really look forward to seeing you here or there soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Penny. Thank you. With that, we'd like to now introduce the Executive Officer for one of the most awesome experiences that the Signature Experience of Australia has, one of the many actually. And I guess this one is great because you can actually have an opportunity to see the Australian wildlife up front and close. And we all know that Australian wildlife is really unique. It's unlike what you will find in any other part of the world. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to John Daw, who's the Executive Officer for Australian Wildlife Journeys. John, welcome. Thank you for being with us this afternoon, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Samar. Thank you for that introduction. And thanks to everyone joining the session today, whether that be live or whether you're watching the recording. It's great to have you with us. Certainly hoping that you are staying safe wherever you may be. And a pleasure to be sharing, as Samar said, some of the great Australian wildlife encounters with you today. It's certainly always a pleasure to talk about our amazing wildlife that we have here, particularly during challenging times. So hopefully today, certainly a lot of content, keeping the dream alive, and we're certainly looking forward to hosting everyone from the Indian market again very soon. So in today's session, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover some information about what makes Australian Wildlife Journeys unique, talking a bit about our philosophy to wildlife touring. And then for those of you that might not be as familiar with our portfolio, I'm going to quickly run through each of the members and the core experiences that they offer and then we're going to round it out with some questions. So starting off with that point, what makes Australian wildlife journeys unique? And you can see on the slide here, we started this group 3 years ago with the core focus of getting more visitors to experience Australia's wildlife in the wild. So it's something that we think is extremely important, and it's a critical way of protecting our wildlife habitat across Australia. So the group started with a series of family-owned tourism operators that were all about linking clients from all over the world with sustainable wildlife encounters. So certainly that runs through not only how we conduct the tours, but also the philosophy with creating a better future for our wildlife. And the exciting thing now in terms of our group is that we can certainly do that on a number of our experiences where guests can actually partake in conservation or sustainability activities when they're on tour. As Penny mentioned earlier in the session, the thing that I just love about the Signature Experiences program is it is all about the storytellers and the guides, and that's certainly a strong focus for us at Australian Wildlife Journeys. Wherever you conduct a safari around the world, it's the guide that's critical to bringing the ecosystem or habitat to life, telling the stories, not only when you're seeing the animals, but in the hunt for them as well, when you're trying to photograph them or find them. So they're a critical part of our story, and the personality is one of those things that often the guests, when they're out in these beautiful landscapes, it's lifelong friendships that they're making with the guides, which is always a beautiful thing to hear. In terms of our hospitality, that's another key focus for us. And for us, it's connecting with the community that Penny spoke so beautifully about before. And it's such a great thing about this program is it's really showcasing the best of what we have in terms of those regional communities. It's linking up with local providores. You can see the oysters to the right there with David Dowdle from Australian Coastal Safaris. It's making sure that we're providing a better or richer experience, but supporting those local communities as well. In terms of our accommodation, for many of the experiences that I'll talk about today, there's a choice. You can certainly choose for several of our members Penny's Beautiful Lodgings, or something lower in standard, whether that be 4-star, or even there's camping experiences for several of these trips. So it really depends on what the client wants to do. But for us, it's providing that flexibility that's a real selling point as well. And of course, community values, as I said before, that's very important for us. So wherever we're looking at adding new experiences, it's always about doing the best for the local communities. In terms of our wildlife, we often talk about how wonderful and weird Australia's species are, and Tourism Australia's tagline, "There's nothing like our country," it certainly is true for our wildlife. You can see there that essentially around 80% of our species you can't see anywhere else on the planet. You have to come here to Australia. And I think it's something that we take for granted here living in Australia, just how diverse our experiences are. And it's something that I think we should talk more about, because it really is special what we have. So obviously our marsupials are often the main reason that people come to visit, but our bird life is extremely diverse. We've got the most endemic species of any country. Obviously our reefs are truly remarkable with the Great Barrier Reef and Ningaloo. We've got an amazing amount of marine mammals. We've got the most reptiles of any country on Earth as well. So the complete picture there, it really illustrates just how special Australia's offerings are, how diverse it is, but also how important it is that you have a guide that can connect you and tell how rich that story is. You'll now see a slide with a graph there, and I always like to show this because it really brings home why we started this group in the first place. So within the space of the last 50 odd years, the human population has doubled and the wild animal population has halved. So clearly this isn't sustainable. So we see that tourism is playing a really important part in trying to reverse this biodiversity loss. And as you can see, just the fact that we're supporting those operators that showcase wildlife in the wild is a critical step towards doing this. And a quote, many of you know Janine Duffy from Echidna Walkabout, which I absolutely love. If a few people go to a small town to see a wild koala, locals notice. when a few hundred people are visiting regularly, businesses notice. If numbers swell to a few thousand people, all to see wild koalas, governments notice. I think it's a beautiful message and a really important step in terms of protecting our wildlife here in Australia in the coming years. As I mentioned at the start, another thing that we're really proud of is building our portfolio of experiences where people can actually help with different conservation actions. So these are little things that people can do when they're on tour. It may be half an hour a day, it might be an hour a day, where they're contributing to creating a better future and a better habitat for the wild animals that they're going out to see. So we've started several citizen science projects. Citizen science, for those of you who might not have heard that term before, it's essentially going out with a phone app or an iPad and tracking what you're seeing. And it's a really fun way of not only listing what encounters you've experienced, but it contributes to a lot of scientific research. You can imagine that whilst it might not be significant if one person does this on tour, if everyone does it over the course of a year, it actually collates into a lot of important data that scientists can base their decision making on. So it's something that more and more wildlife tour operators are connecting with, which is a great thing. And also just covering a bit on the situation we find ourselves in at the moment, and just the relevance of going out to some of these regional spaces and having that time with nature. As Penny said, I think everyone's evaluating what they want, not only out of life, but also out of travel. And certainly that's something wonderful, I think, about many of the experiences that we offer around Australia is going out where there's less tourists. Typically, it's that private land access in small groups, and certainly making that connection with your guide that's so important at this point in time. So just quickly showcasing the map. So we currently have 10 members located around Australia. We're certainly looking to expand the portfolio, but we've got a really nice collection of different members showcasing most of the iconic wildlife encounters that people think of when they think of coming to Australia for our wildlife. So I'm going to briefly run through these 10 members now. It's impossible to showcase every single experience that they offer, but I'd love to give you a bit of a taste on the type of experiences that they have, and also some of their unique selling points as well when you're talking to your clients. So starting off with FNQ Nature Tours in beautiful tropical North Queensland. So this is actually the world's oldest tropical rainforest. I'm sure many of you are aware of that, but it's also home to the highest biodiversity of any region in Australia. So for a lot of bird watchers, and I know that's certainly something of particular appeal for the Indian market, this really is our twitching mecca if you're an Australian or you're coming here for bird watching. So over 40% of our bird species are found in that wet tropics region. Obviously touring through the Daintree, seeing the saltwater crocodiles, the amazing southern cassowary, which you can see there are very popular, but also something that's gaining more popularity is up in the Atherton tablelands, where you can see the platypus. It's pretty much guaranteed there, and also some amazing marsupials, including the tree kangaroo. So that's certainly one to keep an eye on in the coming years as well. In terms of what makes FNQ unique, they certainly specialise in nocturnal experiences, and that's a really important point to make, is that many people will visit the Daintree area, but they actually don't see it when it's at its best in terms of wildlife, and that's typically dusk and the start of the evening. So we certainly offer that at both locations. There's also some fantastic conservation work that we're teaming up with the Australian Quoll Conservancy, based out of the Atherton Tablelands. We actually offer a tour where people can participate in some quoll research out that way, which is fantastic. They also offer some great birding and photography trips for those that have that passion point as well, and some private access to a new reserve called the Shirt Earth Reserve, which is about 90 minutes west of Cairns. Heading down to New South Wales, so just outside of Sydney is the beautiful Southern Highlands. So this area, you may have heard, was affected by our summer bushfires, but we were quite lucky in terms of this particular tour that the majority of areas where we find the animals has remained unburned. So much of the perimeter was affected, but the day tour that leaves around midday and heads to areas like Berrima and Bowral, certainly there's still plenty of wildlife viewing opportunities around that area. So what makes it unique? It's home to Australia's big five, I call it. So koalas, kangaroos, platypus, wombats, and echidnas, always very popular, those five. So to be able to do that in the wild, just out of Sydney, is truly amazing. So that's a fantastic option for people that might be in Sydney, might be a little bit time poor, but they still want to connect with some of those iconic animals in the wild. That particular experience leaves at midday, and the reason we do that again is to see the wildlife when it's most active at dusk, and that includes a spotlighting tour as well. You can see on the left there a spotlight with a wombat coming out of the burrow, which is pretty cool. Heading down to Victoria, and Janine Duffy, the Managing Director, you can see in the Echidna there, who heads up the Echidna Walkabout Nature Tours. They've been operating for nearly 30 years now, and certainly Janine's one of the most respected wildlife operators around Australia. She covers quite a big territory, really. Victoria is such a diverse state, so you can see lots of different type of habitats in a pretty concentrated area, whether that be rainforests, beautiful alpine areas. She also goes out to the desert now, a place called Mungo National Park, which is right on the border of New South Wales and Victoria, which is quite a unique place and great for our arid species, including our parrots and that beautiful cockatoo you can see there, the Major Mitchell cockatoo. So she offers a new tour this year called Koala Researcher for a Day. So previously it's been called Kangaroos and Koalas, but that's been slightly amended this year. So it's still going out to a place called the Yuyangs, where we go out with our koala research team and track all the local koalas there. They know them all by name, but it's just a bit more of a conservation focus than it has been in the past. Also, East Gippsland's one I should shout out as well. So this area was also affected with the bushfires, but a really positive outcome out of the whole situation is that tour has been amended, and it's now integrating more conservation experiences. So each day we do about an hour's activity. We're setting up a new koala research program on a place called Raymond Island. We're also doing some bushfire surveys on the perimeter of those burns, and also doing a bit more beach cleaning of the discarded fishing nets. So that's a great one if people want to help out in the recovery of the wildlife and flora through that area. In terms of the unique selling points for Janine, very strong on conservation, as I mentioned. Also, if people are interested in looking at some of the rare species, the East Gippsland area is a great one for that. Bird watching, another really popular pastime through that area. And certainly Janine's had so many accolades of late, but certainly very proud to have won the Responsible Travel Award in 2014 in London for her koala research. Heading down to Tasmania, another really popular place with wildlife enthusiasts, and rightly so. It's a beautiful place, Tassie. Nearly over one third is actually protected area or World Heritage Wilderness. So such a great place to see some of the rarer marsupials like the Tassie devils and quolls, but also enjoy such a diverse landscape set. So again, rainforest, beautiful mountains, coastline that we're all familiar with there. You can see beautiful Wineglass Bay. And again, it's home to a lot of species that you just can't see anywhere else on Earth, let alone Australia. So it is a really unique place. Premier Travel Tassie, they've been offering some multi-day trips for some time now. Their 8-day wildlife wilderness and iconic Tasmania trips been a bit of an iconic tour for them over many years, but they've actually amended one of the tours for this upcoming season to a 5-day, which is a little bit shorter than they've typically been offering, which focuses on the inland area. So we found that a lot of people really want to focus on the marsupials when they were touring through Tassie. So this one covers beautiful Cradle Mountain, a accommodation property called Thousand Lakes Lodge, through to Mount Field National Park and Maria Island. So Premier Travel Tasmania, they offer some beautiful itineraries that not only integrate the wildlife, but they have great access to the community, whether that's food and wine makers, heritage and history, the culture and the arts. We often recognise that people are not necessarily coming to Australia just to experience wildlife on safari, but they do want to experience some of those other beautiful themes as well. So certainly that can be organised with Premier. As I mentioned, the great thing about Tassie is the ability to see some of the rarer marsupials that you can't necessarily see on the mainland very easily at this point in time. So that's another major selling point of heading down there as well. Also in Tassie is the beautiful Maria Island. So some of you, I'm sure, have heard about this beautiful walk, the Maria Island Walk, which is a 4-day guided experience. The island itself is known as Tasmania's Noah's Ark. It's been used as a bit of a refuge for some of Tasmania's species that are undergoing stress, either through habitat loss or through things like disease, which is the case with the Tassie devil, unfortunately. But it's just outstanding landscapes. You can see the beautiful beaches there. It's got amazing fossils, beautiful rugged cliffs on the north side of the island too, which has some fascinating geology. So there's so much to offer across that 4-day walk. You are staying in wilderness camps for 2 nights on this one. So the owner, Ian Johnston's built some beautiful camps and 2 locations that are right near the beach. So all done very much with the environment in mind. In the evenings, you're enjoying some outstanding culinary offerings, definitely showcasing some of Tassie's best wine and some amazing cheeses and the like as well. And the other important thing to mention for the walk and for all the tours really is this guide to guest ratio. So generally for our tours, it's 1 guide for 5 or 6 guests to ensure that you're getting that high level of interpretation and really more of a conversation rather than a fixed commentary. On that note, heading across to Kangaroo Island. So you can see exceptional Kangaroo Island and Craig Wickham, the managing director there. Kangaroo Island is certainly a destination that's grown in popularity significantly over recent years, and certainly Southern Ocean Lodge has been an important part of that. The bushfires this summer certainly took a lot of the touring options out immediately. So what we've done the last few months has very much been focusing on developing some itineraries moving forward that still showcase Flinders Chase focus, but doing it in a way where it's not necessarily looking at the burnt zone the entire tour, because 50% of the island was affected, unfortunately. So what we've done is we've teamed up with a not-for-profit called Kangaroo Island Land for Wildlife. And for the Flinders Chase focus, which you can see on the top left there, we're actually heading out with those guys. We're doing some recovery work with an endangered marsupial called the sooty dunner. And we're helping check motion detection cameras and doing all sorts of fun things with the scientists there before heading down to Remarkable Rocks and talking about the fire ecology. So that's an important update on that one. That's starting up in September again. So certainly the full fleet of options will be available come springtime. All sorts of itineraries, again, themed itineraries that EKO have created, whether you're into the food and wine, photography, bird watching, that can be all organised as well. Heading down to the Eyre Peninsula to Australian coastal safaris. So this is about a 40-minute flight west of Adelaide to beautiful Port Lincoln. It's known as our seafood capital here in Australia. So beautiful oysters, prawns, all sorts of local fish as well, including the southern bluefin tuna. But we're showcasing obviously the amazing wildlife that you can experience both by the ocean and by land there. So whether you want to see wild koalas or swim with sea lions and dolphins, or even go out and experience the great white shark via a cage dive, that's all on offer. There's 4-wheel drive expeditions that you can do there. In many of the national parks, you really do need to do that via 4-wheel drive to access the remote national park areas where we see a lot of these wildlife species. Also, birding and photography workshops are available with one of their guides. So if you have got clients with that passion, that's certainly one to check out. Heading across to Western Australia, one of my favourite experiences, new experiences that's come onto the market here in Australia is the Bremer Canyon Killer Whale Expedition. So this is in its 6th season this year. It's an area that's relatively new to science, and this is home to the largest congregation of orcas in the Southern Hemisphere, they believe. And it's also a place where you often get to see these orcas in hunting mode or predating on other big marine mammals, including other whales. So that operates from January through to late April, but you can actually go whale watching off Margaret River year round. So they offer some beautiful experiences off Margaret River through the autumn, winter and spring, including the opportunity to see the blue whales. They had about 240 blue whales come through this year, which is quite incredible. High success rate in terms of being able to see both the orcas and also the whales out of Margaret River, right up there towards 100%. Great pelagic bird watching as well, and they are very much focused on conservation actions and supporting the researchers out on the vessel as well. And heading up to Exmouth, another beautiful aquatic activity. You can see the Managing Director, Deb Ferguson, pictured there. So this is a 2-hour flight from Perth. I'm sure you've all seen those beautiful pictures with the whale sharks. That's certainly what's put Ningaloo and Exmouth on the map, which is available March through to late August, excuse me. But something that has changed, and I actually need to update this deck because it has only been announced last week, is you can now swim with humpback whales pretty much from when they arrive to the area through to the end of October. So that's generally mid-June. So I think this is going to be an amazing offering to be able to swim with a whale shark one day and a humpback whales the next day for a few months of the calendar year. So that's something that we're really looking forward to sharing more on, as well as the diving and snorkeling activities there. And finally, heading up to the top end and Sab Lord of Lord's Kakadu and Arnold Safaris. Such an amazing place up the top end. I shouldn't have a favourite, but I absolutely love Kakadu. It's got such amazing vistas, bird watching, and you've of course got the saltwater crocodiles up that way, and the amazing Indigenous history and rock art up there as well. SAB mainly focuses on tailor-made or custom tours. So no matter whether your clients want to stay on his camp through Bamaroo Plains, which is one of Penny's lodges, or other accommodations in the area, SAB's got privileged access to both Bamaroo and Davidson's as the only outside guide permitted to stay with clients while they're touring through. So that just allows continuity and the clients to experience the same guide throughout their multi-day trip up the top end. So just some last points here. So in terms of next steps, we've put together a series of resources, obviously the Aussie Specialist module, which you would have heard about from the Tourism Australia team. If you haven't subscribed to our trade communications, that's another great way to learn more information, make sure you've got all our latest assets, brochures, and also our past recordings for separate webinars that we may have done. So that's wildlifejourneys.com/trade. And I'd also encourage you to have a bit of a look at the website if you've got time. So that's got a separate menu under the tours option, and it allows you to search by different filters, whether that be state, type of wildlife interest that you've had, and month of travel, along with duration, and it will filter out all the different experiences and show you exactly where they are on the map, which is always extremely helpful. And we'd also love you if you could connect with our social media channels. So it's something that we're focusing more and more on at the moment whilst we're in lockdown. But one thing that I will mention is we are expanding our video range on YouTube. So we're putting together a lot of vignettes at the moment, and also some interviews with the members, which we'll be adding to the Tourism Australia video gallery in the coming months as well, which will be terrific to not only showcase the wildlife, but also the interviews with our members one-on-one. So that's pretty much it from me, Samar. I think we've rushed around Australia. Hopefully haven't overloaded everyone with too much information. It shows you how diverse our experiences are and how much you can do and how much you can see in terms of our wildlife.
Fantastic, John. Thank you so much. What comes out very strongly with this collective is also how seamlessly different collectives can be integrated, and there are some experiences that are unique, And you can really enjoy so much more when you have those experiences that you can take back home. And it's not just like I said in the beginning, not just seeing wildlife from a camera or from zoom lenses, but really being up close and up front, and understanding them and learning from experts and guides in that space. That really makes that experience so memorable. When you come back home and talk to people about it, it sort of moves them to take that trip and make that journey themselves as well, and learn in the process. So I know you mentioned you don't have favorites, but I have one, and my favorite is the one I hope to do sometime soon. Is the whale shark with swim with the whale shark in the Ningaloo Reef, maybe sometime
Yeah,
when I'm there next. I do have sorry, you were saying,
no,
John.
it's an unforgettable moment. You can see all the pictures in the world, but until you actually put your snorkel and mask under the water and see it for the first time, it blows you away. It's something you'll never forget. So
Absolutely.
look forward to having you down soon to do it.
Thank you, John. I do have a couple of questions. First one is, which one, in your opinion, or from your experience that you would have had come through from Indian travel partners or Indian consumers, which ones have been so far the most popular from the Indian market?
Yeah, good question. Certainly the experiences out of Sydney and Melbourne, as you'd expect, have always been popular. The day trips that Echidna Walkabout offered to see the koalas, and also with boutique wildlife tours heading down to the Southern Highlands. But we're certainly seeing more interest for destinations like Tasmania, for Kangaroo Island. I think more and more people are finding out about the Eyre Peninsula with the sea lion swim and some of those beautiful soft adventure activities that they've got as well. So we're certainly seeing more regional dispersal for those multi-day experiences than we have in the past. So that's a really pleasing thing to see.
Great. The next one is, which experiences would you recommend for families, especially when they have families with the kids of different age groups, and sometimes even large families of 8 or 10 people. Are there any particular experiences which would sort of just shout out that they're family and easy to do, or not?
Yeah. So the good thing about the majority of the members is that they can be organised on a private charter or tailor basis, which we will often do for those larger family groups. So typically, the maximum size for the groups are around about 12, typically with 2 guides. So that works really well. So I think the offerings up in tropical North Queensland, again through Tasmania, places like Kangaroo Island, they're all ideal for family because there's so many different activities that you can do on the island aside from the wildlife if you just don't want to focus on one particular theme. And for those families that might have older kids, so sort of that 10 plus, those aquatic activities are really attractive as well. So again, that's something that I really encourage people to check on the website. Is on each of the tour listings we list if there's any age requirements, which is generally a 12 plus for those aquatic activities like the whale shark.
Okay, thanks so much, John. I just have 2 more questions. I think you answered one of them. You just spoke about a maximum people in a group is 12, I think you said, but what would be the minimum to have a private tour? Is it two people or 1?
That's right, yeah. Most of the shared experiences, it's minimum 2. And as a rule for land, it's 12. For the whale watching experience or aquatic experience, sometimes a little bit more depending on the boat capacity.
Okay, and all of this can be accessed on the website.
Yeah, we've got the minimum and maximum numbers there, and whether they're private, shared, etc., or whether we cater for larger groups if people are looking into that as well.
Okay, great, thank you. And the last one is the question that came on: are these tours all inclusive, or do we need to just book the tour and then do we need to book our accommodation and other activities on our own, or it's just a one-stop shop?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mixture. So with some of the departures where we're going through regional areas where there's not a great choice of accommodation, that'll often be integrated into the price. If that's the case, we will always list that. But for the bulk of experiences, there's a choice in terms of accommodation. So for most of our trade partners, they'll select the experiences and then they'll have the conversation with the client as to what accommodation level they'd like and organise or package that accordingly.
Okay, great. So you can do a little bit of customization there.
Exactly, yeah. And that's, again, I think that's a real selling point that we can cater to that level of that client, whether they'd be sort of maybe 3 or 4 star that want to spend more on the guiding, or they want best of the best and stay at one of Penny's lodges with all the beautiful things that they offer.
Great. Thank you so much, John. No further questions from the participants. So once again, thank you very much. And I'd like to hand back to my colleague Ritu to close remarks.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you, Penny, for that amazing presentation on luxury lodges. We totally loved it. And John, that session on Australian wildlife journeys was extremely informative. What's amazing to see is how many possibilities these collectives have. Personalizing, privatizing, customizing. So, John, I just like to. I have one question which has come to me on a personal message, that they have a group of these wildlife photographers. So would you be able to customize it? Are these customizable for them?
Yes, they are. So
Okay, awesome.
we offer
Lovely.
a couple of options there. So we can either offer photography tours where people understand how to use their camera and they just want to have access to the best locations to take certain types of wildlife shots, or we can also offer workshops as well where we have instructors on how to take better photos and learn more about your SLR.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome. So I hope the person who's asked me this question, it's answered. Now, thanking you all again for being a part of this session. We hope to see you all on Wednesday, 15 July, where we bring you 2 more of the collectives from the Signature Experiences of Australia. We will have Jane Ross from Cultural Attractions of Australia and Nicole Mitchell from Discover Aboriginal Experiences. Thank you so much, everybody. This is Ritu. I will see you all on Wednesday again. You guys have a lovely day ahead. Thank you.